Centurion warsuits were first developed during the Age of Apostasy, but weren't used during it, and were only revealed to the legions of the Space Marines much later. Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and today we're covering the Centurion Devastators, the arranged variant of the Centurion warsuits used by the chapters of the Space Marines. These are a relatively modern edition, coming out about, I suppose 10 years ago, so not super modern, but still more modern than Tactical Marines. The Devastator Centurions come in at 185 for 3 or 370 for 6. They move 4 inches, their toughness 7 with a 2+ save, 4 wounds, leadership 6+, and OC 2. Fairly standard stats for something like this, though I will admit they are not very tough for that points cost. In terms of ranged weapons, they come standard with grav cannons, which are anti-vehicle 2+ at 24-inch range, with ballistic skill 3+, strength 6, AP 1, and damage 3. A pretty solid anti-everything weapon, except against monsters. The twin las cannon is 48-inch range, with ballistic skill 3+, strength 12, AP -3, and damage d6+1, so a pretty solid anti-tank. The twin heavy bolters are sustained hits 1, 36-inch range, ballistic skill 3+, strength 5, AP 1, and damage 2. Fairly unimpressive for the stats. For these points, but again, heavy bolters do have rule of cool. The Centurion bolters are chest mounted at rapid fire 3 and twin linked, with 24-inch range, 3 attack, so that hit on 3s at strength 4, AP 0, and damage 1. And the Centurion missile launcher is blast, 36-inch range, that hits on 3s with D3 attacks at strength 9, AP 2, and damage D3. Fairly general purpose, if nothing impressive. In terms of melee weapons, they have Centurion fists, which are simply 3 attacks that hit on 4s at strength 5, AP 1, and damage 2. They get to reroll 1s all the time and reroll everything if they target someone on an objective marker. You have one sergeant, and then 2 to 5 regular Centurions, and then you can swap your grav cannons for heavy bolters or las cannons, and you can exchange your bolters for Centurion missile launchers. Moving on to buff options, now there isn't that much, but I tried to find everything that would be somewhat applicable to these guys, as they cannot have any characters join them because there's no Centurion characters. Gilliman, of course, first comes to mind, the Primarch of the Ultramarines. He can offer them free stratagems if they're within range of him, which their firepower isn't terrible, so giving them some free stratagems could definitely be interesting. And then the Thunderstrike is also probably only useful outside of the core codex, as you naturally get +1 to wound against your oath moment, though since these guys do get full rerolls against several targets, it's not the most unusual that they might not be targeting the oath of moment target, in which case a Thunderstrike, though a pricey upgrade, could be handy to make sure they're hitting those enemies really hard. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to any character that generates command points, whether that be Marnius Calgar or Azrael or whoever it may be. They definitely do benefit these guys, probably more than a lot of other units, because most units do have a way to get access to free stratagems, but the Centurions do not. So having some extra stratagem, some extra CP to spend on them, is pretty handy. Just because, again, I mentioned they do pretty decent damage, so being able to give them a free stratagem, whether it be just Armor of Contempt or Fire Discipline or something along those lines, depending on your target. Storm of Fire, or Battlefield or Battle Drill Recall, things along those lines could all be very useful to get more consistently on units like this. Moving on from that, which is very slim pickings, I wouldn't say any of these are that exemplary for these guys, but so let's move on to the Detachments, where they'll get most of their strength. First up, of course, we have the Gladius, which gives them extra mobility, which is necessary given that they are so painfully slow. And the potential for extra AP is nice if you're running the grav cannons, since they're only AP 1. In the Anvil Siege Force, Battle Drill Recall is very nice for extra hits, giving you that 5+ sustained hits. And especially when you can fish for them if it's an enemy on an objective, or if it is the Oath of Moment target. Iron Storm gives you, of course, 1 reroll to either hit, wound, or damage. These guys mainly appreciate that for the damage roll, because they're already rerolling attacks. Most of their weapons are twin-linked, and their biggest damage is random, so being able to reroll it is pretty handy. Firestorm gives you Assault, which is very good, and getting extra strength is pretty risky, but very meaningful on the missiles and las cannons. Of course, if these guys get within 12 inches of the enemy, they're probably dead next turn anyways, so it's nice to get a little bit of extra power out of them anyways. Vanguard gives you cover at range, which is certainly handy, though they just definitely are not durable even with that, and let's make no illusions of that. Champions of Rush and Righteous Crusaders can both give you a 6+ Feel No Pain, which is nice given that all of them have quite a few wounds. And then Wrathful Procession can give you a 5+ Invulnerable save at range, which is a good way of pushing them more towards a durable durable platform, though of course they are in a sort of strange place durability-wise, where there's no weapons that like are horrible against them outside of what like las guns, but bolters, heavy bolters, autocannons, plasma guns, melta-guns, whatever they may be, just tear through Centurions very fast. Anyways, moving on to their competition, which there's definitely a lot for how pricey these guys are. First up, we have normal Devastators. They definitely lack the exosuits, but given the huge points disparity, I'd say their durability is overall pretty similar. The Centurions do have them beat on accuracy, as none of their weapons have heavy and just innately hit on the 3s. But given that the overlap with Oath of Moment means that it's more convenient for Devastators to get the full effect of Oath of Moment, means that I don't think that's the biggest difference, and I'll usually take the extra shot of 4 las cannon Devastators over 3 las cannon Centurions, especially for how much cheaper they are. They're 65 points cheaper. The Ballistus Dreadnought is, no-nonsense anti-tank, very good, also much cheaper and much faster and much tougher. The Gladiator Lancer is much the same, not as much tougher, but its damage far eclipses the Centurions, that's for sure. And then I also wanted to mention the Predator Destructor, or Annihilator rather, which is significantly better than these guys, which is also 65 or 55 points cheaper for better anti-tank damage, which is just kind of a shame, honestly. So if you can't tell from this video, I don't really like Centurions. I'm not the biggest fan of Assault, and I really dislike Devastator Centurions. I find them pretty pointless. The Grav weapons are a personal favorite of mine, but with how sluggish these guys are, and they only get access to transports with Land Raiders and Storm Ravens, it's a bit hard to recommend them. These guys aren't tough enough to take the front line, and they don't want to be in melee either. So it's very hard to recommend you have them rush up to use one of their better weapons. So you get the las cannons, which are definitely solid, but for stationary anti-tank, I'd rather just take the cheaper Devastators, who can post up in a building and do pretty decent damage. But if I want something mobile that's tougher, I would bring a Ballistus, or a Predator chassis, which both, of course, are much, much tougher than the Centurions. The usual things that destroy Marines still destroy Centurions. Plasma guns, melta-guns, autocannons tear through these guys like they're made of papier-mâché. They're slow, so escaping enemies is very difficult, if not impossible in most cases. I do my best to not be super cutthroat competitive about things, but even I struggle to find a use for these guys. They're slow, they have no combos, they don't hit that hard, they're fragile as anything, so I just can't find an interesting use for them. But though, of course, there is one reason that trumps all others. If you like them, use them, because that's the biggest thing in the hobby after all. They're just not a unit for me, and that's totally okay. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.